Perfect. Welcome to Agency MVP Live. My name is Samantha and I will be teaching today's webinar. So today we're going to be talking about running reports. We're almost to the middle of the year, right? This is your last month of the year that's about to start here soon, right? So we definitely want to make sure that we are on track to hit our goals. And then if we're not, make any adjustments so we can end the year on a strong note, right? And really hit those goals, maximize our bonus potentials, all of that. So with that in mind, I thought it'd be a great time to run through reports. The first thing that we're going to talk about is the dashboard. Okay, raise your hand if you guys can see my MVP account. Can you see that? Y'all can see MVP? Perfect. Okay, so this is Agency MVP's dashboard. Have you ever looked at this page before? How about this? How often do you look at this page? Use a Q&A box and tell me, how often do you click the Agency MVP button on the top left corner and look at the dashboard? Ten times a day. I don't even know what number that would be, Joel, but like something like 1 million plus. Every day, 3 times a day. Perfect. We got some nevers. So let's talk about this, talk about how often we should be going here and what it is. Honestly, my advice for you is come here once a day. Maybe you can come here like first thing in the morning and then right before you leave for lunch break and then before you leave for the day if you want to. I think that's enough. You don't need to do any more than that, I don't think. Okay. So what this page is used for is to look at the activity, what's going on. When you click Agency MVP, you are not coming down here and clicking that plus symbol to the left of your name and finding the people that need a phone call. You are coming to this page to really just review what is being done across the agency. Okay, so the top part is the call activity. This one is what I would really look at probably like throughout the day. That way you can take a look and see what is going on, like how many calls are being logged and stuff. So this is going to show you how many calls you have logged. We've got the total call attempts for today. And then below that, we've got the numbers for the households. Okay. We've got total households called today, leads called, prospects, and cross sells. Okay. So notice that this says 3. We've got 1 lead, 2 prospects, and 0 cross sells. But this is 5. So this top number is the total phone calls that you've logged today. The bottom is the number of households that you've called. Okay, so if you're calling households multiple times in one day, then it's only going to count them once as far as the household numbers. But at the total call attempts, it'll show 5. Okay. So that's what that is. Raise your hand if that makes sense to you. All good? Any questions about that? If you have any questions, please let me know so I can answer them. That's what that is. The white box is just numbers for whoever you're logged in as, okay? But as an agent, you get this email to you every night. Who has ever looked at the performance report? Do you know what I'm talking about? All right, so the performance report is the email that you get every night. Okay, so the agent gets this. Just an example from Todd's account. Okay, so we've got here every night. It's about 10:30 Central Time when this is sent out. It's going to show you all of the active staff members on the left. And then it will have a row for each of them with the number of phone calls that they've logged. So this is, we've got the leads called, API leads, hot leads, so the different types of leads, okay? We've got prospects awaiting, prospects quoted, so 2 different types of prospects. how many cross sales or customers were called. Okay, so those numbers, all of these right here, are going to add up to this number, the total number of households that were called for that day. Okay, if the total households contacted is different from the total call attempts, then that means that there was multiple call attempts made to the same household. So here we've got 21 call attempts, or 21 households called for 24 total call attempts. Okay. All right, here is the total text messages. These do not include workflow texts. Okay, so these are going to include the manual messages that were sent out by your staff members. Okay, so there is that. I would look at this every night. Something that we did, so back when I used MVP, we got something on a monthly basis. It was like a manual process that they were doing here. So they were sent to the agent, and then the agent in the office was forwarding it to everyone else that was calling. And so we could all look at it and see what everyone has been doing. Mostly, if I could talk, mostly focusing on yourself, right? But being able to look at other staff members and seeing what they did that day is going to help motivate you and say, oh, look, Jonathan got 50 phone calls and I was only at 24 or whatever, right? So that can help you out. Of course, it depends on kind of what all is your responsibilities, what's being done, things like that. This was like a half day for this office. So that's what this is, but take a look at it, forward it to your staff members so they can see what it looks like. And kind of do a little bit of friendly competition. If your agency is, it depends on the atmosphere though. If your agency and your staff all get along well, I would totally use this to help you out. Okay. Raise your hand if that performance report made sense. Good, understand it? Okay, so really quickly, a little tip on that. Some of you guys might notice you're not getting that report, or maybe you're getting it and you just don't want to look at it. I mean, that's fine. It's up to you. I mean, I would want to at least be able to glance at it every day. But in the account information page, so you click the name on the top right and go to account information, you can turn off the email subscription for the performance report. If you uncheck that box, that means that you will not receive the performance report. I'd recommend that you do just keep it checked. And then if you don't want to look at it, just mark it as read. That way, if you did want to see it one day, you would have it. Okay. All right. So we've got that. Okay. Next thing that we're going to talk about is this bottom section, premiums quoted, sold, total quotes. Those are not the totals for the one staff member that you're logged in as. These are the totals for the entire agency during the chosen time range. So May 20th through May 27th is what we're looking at. It does default to a rolling 7-day period. You can click on the calendar and change it to whatever you want. Okay. So you can look at it based on like your folio, your sales month. You can look at it based on like just today or just yesterday, whatever it is that you want to look at. Okay, we're looking at the quote activity. So that's all that we're focusing on, just what has been done. Okay, not focusing on sales when the quote activity is blue. We're looking at all different types of households. We've got leads, prospects, or cross sales. So you can look at those. And then if you click the plus symbol to the left of each staff member's name, you're going to see what they've done. Just a little lazy hack. If you start at the bottom, you just kind of click up and you're good, right? But if I start at the top, now I've got to scroll down, click that one, scroll down some more, and click that one, right? So just a little lazy hack that will help you out. Start at the bottom with the plus symbols, okay? So once you do that, you're going to drop down more information about what each staff member has done during the chosen time range. We've got every household they've quoted, how many lines of business that they have quoted, and then we have requoted. How many of you guys don't understand how requoted works? Raise your hand. I get this question a lot. What makes something count as a requote? Okay, so let's go to this little testing test household. So to count as a requote, what you need to do is click on remove and then click add and add the quote back in. That is how you will count a requote at this time. Okay. Do that, click save. All right, let's go back to that dashboard. I'm gonna do a hard refresh. Sometimes it will update immediately. Sometimes it will take up to about 5 minutes, but let's take a look to see if it updated. Let's see. Nope, not yet. Change the premium here. Oh, no, it didn't yet, but it will update. It can take up to about 5 minutes or so to see that update sometimes as well too. Okay, so that's how you do a requote. On this page though, you are going to see what's all been quoted. How many lines of business have they quoted? What's their premiums that they've quoted for each line of business? We got the total premium quoted for the household. If it's highlighted in green, it means that that household was quoted and sold during the chosen time range. If you see a little parentheses, that means that you are saving that much money on that policy. Okay. If you have it in red, that means that you are more by that much compared to their current policy. Okay. So we've got that for all these different lines of business. Do you guys require a certain amount of quotes for each line of business in your agency? Do you say auto and home every time? Umbrella, specialty? What do you all do with that? A lot of the times I notice that we have trouble with staff trying to quote other lines of businesses, right? They're not really kind of stepping out of that little comfort zone and trying to do umbrella or specialty or life or whatever. So I would probably do some type of little competition, drawing type of thing. Ours was we had to have at least 5 umbrella and specialty quotes per week. That was nothing compared to how many actual quotes that we were doing a week. So it was very, very easy to hit that goal. Life was 4 a month. So that's 1 life a week. Wasn't really that hard to do that. It definitely, I mean, depending on your quote volume, I think that's doable, right? So it was 4 a week for life, 5 for umbrella and specialty. Commercial, I mean, it's kind of hard to do that if you guys don't really talk about it. Kind of just depends, right? So doing those types of things and then offering like a drawing, like if you have this, we'll put your name into a drawing, and we would do like an hour off early on a Friday and it was paid. So that was kind of cool. But just little things like that to help motivate the staff to use MVP, and little small rewards will really help out. Okay. So auto and home should be quoted every time. If there's just 1 line of business, that's not okay, right? We need to know, obviously they're living somewhere. So identifying those and quoting them is really important. It does help the value of the household, right? So if I was working on a household and it was only this $500 auto policy, raise your hand if you would want to focus on that household. Or would you prefer the 500 policy and a 1421 giving you just over 1900 in premium? What would be better for you? Raise your hand if you would prefer both, right? It's not worth your time to chase a small premium policy. So that's going to help the value, right? So that is why we promote that. We've got the annual savings if they're comparing a premium. Obviously, I mean, it's not going to happen every time. Just kind of setting goals to push your staff to fill them in will really help out. The marketing source. This is extremely important in my eyes. Raise your hand if you know what this is and you know how to create it. Only one person knows what the marketing source is. Joel, I know you know what this is. This is the marketing source. It's going to identify the specific campaign that brought the lead into your office. This should never, ever be blank. And we're going to really go over why, because we're going to talk about the report that this is going to be on. Okay, so it tells you where the lead came from. Number of call attempts that they've logged, you can just see based on what they've quoted this week, this is how many times they've called them or whatever time range we're looking at. I mean, obviously we're selling stuff, so why are there no phone calls logged, right? Left notes. This is probably one of my favorite ones here and one of the least used ones. So let's talk about the left notes column. This is that important notes box. This is huge. So how many of you, raise your hand if you've ever lost a staff member before? Have you ever lost a staff member? More than half of y'all, right? So what happens when that staff member leaves and you're trying to work the households that they were working on when they were there? You paid for those leads, so you're going to work them or have your other staff work them, right? So that is what the important notes box is for. This is going to be the spark notes of the household. Raise your hand if you have ever had to work a household, maybe a prospect that someone else in your agency had been working on, and you had no idea anything about the conversation or no idea anything about the household or whatever. And you're like, oh, well, that would have been really good to know. I mean, that's happened a lot. I don't know about you, but that happened to me all the time. The important notes box is going to stop that from happening. They are short, they are simple, very easy to read. I call them the spark notes of the household. It should be like 4, maybe 5 lines at most. And it's going to allow you to pick up right where they left off on their last phone call, whether it's you calling them again or it's a new person in the agency working them. It's questions to ask. It's maybe like relationship building notes. Do they what are their hobbies? Do they like to talk about their grandchildren or whatever it is? Do we need to talk about something that we saw when we were quoting their house on Google Maps? Maybe we saw a trailer in their driveway. There was a discovered driver we found. There's so many different things. That's what should go here. Just because it says yes doesn't mean that they're quality notes though. So for each staff member, I would look at like 1 or 2 a week just to kind of take a look here. So that's fine. Sold auto, waiting on home, getting roof replaced in 2 weeks, call back in 2 months to bundle. But if they're getting the roof done in 2 weeks, why would we call them in 2 months? We could talk about that too. All right. So there's that. Let's go on back here. Quote sent, quote viewed. Obviously, you probably know what that means. If they've entered in claims, if they've pipelined them out. Okay. Pipeline dates, take a look. See why they're pipelined. If the important notes box explains why they're pipelined. I've got 3 pipeline dates and they're all pretty close. So we want to know if we're just kind of coming up with random dates or if we are actually finding important dates for the households to call. Okay. When you click on sales activity, that's all that you're focusing on. Who sold what? What are their households? How much premium was sold? How much premium per line of business? Where did the leads come from? And how many call attempts it took to close the sale. So raise your hand if you know on average how many call attempts it takes before you are seeing sales for different marketing sources in your agency. Not many people do. Something I didn't know. I didn't realize how many call attempts it was taking before I was seeing households close. I did a lot of internet leads, a lot of events. Okay, so events weren't really people looking for leads or for quotes. They were just trying to get the free stuff we were giving away. So those were a lot of phone calls, right? Cold calls, a lot of calls, right? They weren't shopping. And so those ones took more call attempts. For me, it was on average about 12 to 15 call attempts before I was seeing sales for those types of leads. For my referrals, I was anywhere from like 1 to 5. Call-ins, same thing, right? So it depends on where the leads are coming from. And some referral partners might be giving us maybe lower quality, or maybe people that aren't really interested. They're just trying to send us information, so we send them leads, I guess. So that could be a thing as well. So using the marketing source on the sales activity is going to allow you to see on average how many call attempts it takes before sales are closing. This is going to motivate you guys, motivate your staff. I did not like calling. Coming from an industry that was not insurance, like that was not my first job. I wasn't fond of calling people a lot. I didn't want to be called a lot, so I don't want to call other people a lot. I would tell them to call me if they were interested, right? You can't do that in this industry. You have to call. So once I got MVP and I was able to start seeing that, I was then calling more and more. Okay. All right. Any questions about this page? Raise your hand if you are good with this page and you understand it. Cool. All right, so I get a lot of questions about this. Export sales activity data. This is sales activity and quote activity data to export it. So it's like just these columns up top, okay? That's what that is. You can change the time range for what you're exporting, but this is just should be used to like run reports is all that should be used for. If you need your data, let us know, okay? All right, so let's move on to the fun stuff. Actually, I've got a couple questions I want to read through real quick. Requoting cannot be done if it's already been marked as sold. That is correct. Once you've marked something as sold, you can't like requote it or add another quote in at this time. We will change that in the future though. The cancel button on a lead, that isn't a like cancel your quote or whatever. That's to like cancel. If I click on it, I'd leave that page. That's what that cancel button means. It's not like cancel the quote or whatever. It's cancel as in leave the page. Okay. All right. Who has ever gone to the reports page? If you click your name on the top right and go to reports, who has ever been there? Raise your hand if you've been to this page. Raise your hand if you didn't even know that this page existed. Uh-oh. That's not good. All right, let's talk about this page. This page is really cool. We did release this. It's been actually probably almost a year now since we've released this, but this is our reports page. It's some reports that MVP will make for you. You might see just the prepare button. If you click that, MVP will start preparing these reports for you. If you hover over the I, it will tell you the last time that this document was prepared in your agency. So I just prepared these before class, so we are good. However, if it was like a couple days ago or weeks or months ago, you can click the refresh button and then it would prepare that report again. These reports are to date, okay? So it's from the last 3 months. So it's today and 3 months back, okay? Or 12 the last year, be the last year from today. Then we've got the marketing report. At this time, the marketing report is all time. So from beginning to now in MVP. I got to this page when you click your name on the top right and then going to reports. Okay, so I'm going to start with the marketing report first because I've got some cool stuff I like to do to it. Will take me a little bit of time here. Raise your hand if you like Excel. Are you comfortable with Excel? All right. Not many people are, so those that didn't raise your hand, I don't blame you. We actually have some good in-depth videos on these reports that you guys can watch if you want to watch through them slowly. we'll go ahead and talk about these. So I'm going to go between A and B after I highlight the whole page, and I'm going to go ahead and expand these columns. So now I can see everything it says within them. Okay. So I've got our tag name. This is the marketing source is what that's called. Okay. So where do the leads come from? Number of leads. How many leads are in my MVP account? So the agency's MVP account from those marketing sources. Okay. This is leads. This is the households that you haven't even entered a quote for, but they are just here in MVP with their name and address, phone number. That's it. That's fine. It's still being counted here. As long as you've saved it as a lead, it's going to be accounted for here. Households quoted. Out of all the leads that you've received from that marketing source, how many of those have you actually been able to quote? Raise your hand if you do not quote every lead that you have an MVP. A lot of people don't, like they work internet leads, so they don't quote them until they talk to them, or they're importing lists that they're calling through. Okay, so this will tell you how many of those have you actually quoted. How many of those households that you've quoted have you been able to sell? What is your closing ratio? And how much total premium have you sold? So I click on F and then I click on the little dollar sign up here, changes it to a dollar value. How many of you guys, raise your hand if you currently run a report to determine your ROI? Do you currently do that? Okay, only one of you do. Okay, raise your hand if you're agents. Are you guys all agents in here? If you're an agency owner, raise your hand. Perfect. All right. So, okay. Here, we're going to add in a couple other columns. So we've got a quote ratio. We are going to put in a formula here. Okay. So we've got, let's do equals the households quoted divided by number of leads equals. And then what we're going to do, so let's do it one more time. So I'm going to do equals households quoted, so C2 divided by B2, the total number of leads. I click enter and there we go. Okay, so I've got that here. Instead of me doing this for every single cell or dragging, you can either click here and drag it down or click on this little green box. And instead of dragging it down, just double click. Okay. But a ratio is a percentage. It's easier to look at it. It's a percentage, right? So let's click on G, click on this percent symbol, and we've formatted that column as a percentage now. So now you can see your quote ratio for each of your marketing sources. All right, next one is the cost. That's important. But the cost is hard, right? So maybe these ones are free, so they're $0. All web leads, maybe we are paying, let's say that we are paying $12 per lead. So 12 times, let's do this, equals 12 times this one. So it's the number of leads. 12 times 4 is 48. Let's do this one here, equals 12 times 106. But not all of them are $12, right? Maybe this one's free because it's from a staff member, natural market. But look at this. I've got 2 all web leads, 1 Amy, and 1 Amy's natural market. Shouldn't be that way, right? How many of you guys have looked at this report and you've seen, oh, look, here's AWL. That's all web leads too. I need all my all web leads to be the same. How many of you guys have noticed that happen? Notice that happen? Okay. So what you want to make sure that you're doing is, one, your agents know when you are, or your staff knows that when they are creating a marketing source, they should make sure it does not exist in any other format in your MVP account. Also, you click your name on the top right in MVP and go to marketing sources. You can consolidate your marketing sources. So we'll select, look, here's all web leads, all web leads. We'll take both of those ones, and then let's go ahead and change it to that one. And then I click apply. How many different groups are affected? I'll click yes. And then it's going to load for me. I'm going to get a little box up here to do like a little hard refresh. That way I will be able to update those, and they're all going to be changed to the one that I wanted it to. So I'll click OK. And there we go. That's the only one I have now. Okay. All right, so we've got that. I'm not going to go through every single one of these. Unfortunately, you are going to have to go through each of these columns. Maybe like referrals. I mean, yeah, you don't pay for your referrals, right? But maybe you spend money on each of your referral partners every month. So think about that, because that is part of your cost. Okay, so you can also put a $sign here. Column I would go ahead and do commission. So this one's a little hard because we are combining your total premiums sold and not separating it between auto and home and specialty products and all of that. So what I would do is I would do equals, let's say, let's do your average. Let's do this first. We'll do total premium sold times your average commission. Okay, so let's say that the average commission is 11%. Click enter, and then that is how much we've made off of this amount. Okay, so I'm going to drag it down here. So we do those ones. Obviously, because there's 0 because we haven't sold any premium there, but it did do it off of these numbers here. Okay, perfect. All right, does that make sense? Raise your hand if you are following along. Following along, making sense? Raise your hand if you are completely lost and don't understand any of this. Nobody. Okay, that's good. All right, so now we want to determine our ROI. In order to calculate our return, we must know how much we made from it and how much we've spent on it, right? We can't just figure out how much premium we sold and say, oh yeah, I spent 4,000, so that's awesome. So we've got here, we're gonna do ROI equals commission minus cost. So I did this with somebody. It was their, I think it was their end of their first year or end of their second year of business. I don't remember, but they were spending probably like $10,000 or more a year on internet leads. And they had gotten maybe $2,000 worth of commission off of those internet leads within that first year. I think it was what it was. So they thought they were great, and they were being really, really pushed in their district, and a lot of their other agents were doing well with them. But just because the agent down the street is doing good with a certain marketing source does not mean that you are too, right? It's very important to look at this and determine your ROI, okay? All right, any questions about this report? Raise your hand if you are good with this report. Perfect. All right. So if you have any questions about this, please make sure you're using the Q&A box. Let me know, do you guys currently use this report? Use the Q&A box and let me know how often you look at this one or how often you plan to look at this report. How much would you or do you look at this report? Would you do once a week, once a month, once a quarter, once a year? So here's my advice with this one. I would probably look at this about once a week, right? To kind of look at all of our different marketing sources. Okay. But as far as doing all this extra stuff, doing this monthly or quarterly is probably going to be better, because I don't need to do this once a week. That's just, I mean, yeah, it's kind of quick, but I also didn't go through and do all of these for my cost, right? So that can definitely take some time. I would just look at making sure our tag names are there. But if you scroll down to the bottom, we see blank. We shouldn't have blank. Blank should not be there. Okay. So that's what I would do if you want to look at it on a weekly basis, but not do all these extra columns and stuff every single week. Another place that you can just go to would be to the marketing sources page to consolidate your tags. Keep an eye on this. Sorry, I call it tags. That's what we used to call these, but they're a marketing source. They identify where the lead came from. I have a crap ton of these in here because this is my testing account and I make a new one every single time I do a training. So you probably won't have that many. Okay. All right, let's talk about the other report, the geo report by zip code. We've got last 3 months and last year. I'm gonna look at the last year one because it will have a little bit more data on here. It's up to you on which one you want to use. Personally, my advice would be to have the 3-month and the 12-month up and kind of use them for reference, okay? So it's gonna show the last 12 months or the last 3 months. If you had a recent rate change, I mean, probably, yeah, last 3 months would probably be better, right? Or last 12 months. But if you didn't have anything change too much, then I would use both of them, just kind of see what's different. So first thing I do is I highlight the whole page with that little triangle. I double click between A and B to expand all of my columns. Then I want to sort this document, because this document is showing me every single zip code that I've quoted in and how many quotes I've done and my closing ratios in those zip codes. I don't want to look at the zip codes I've done like one quote in, right? That is not enough data for me to make a decision on if that is a good zip code or valuable zip code for me to market in. Do you agree? I wouldn't make any major marketing changes if I had like 5 or less quotes in a zip code, right? So I'm going to go ahead and sort and filter. I'm going to do a custom sort here. I sort by the quote total count. Some people do premium sum. The more premium you quote, the better, they say. But what if you just had one really big household there? And if you close that one household, that's 100% closing ratio, right? So that's why I always do the quote total count from largest to smallest. All right, so I've got I got 90 quotes in this one zip code. You're probably going to see the zip codes that are closest to like your office up here at the top, which is fine. That's how most agencies are. So I always like to be able to see the zip code, the total quote count, and then also row 1. Even if I scroll all the way to the right, I want to see those, but I can't at this moment. So what I do is I click on cell C2. You could also go to D2 if you want. I just go to C2. I go to view. I go to freeze panes, and then I click on freeze panes. So if I scroll to the right, columns A and B are staying there. They're frozen. Okay. And then if I scroll down, row 1 is also frozen. Okay. So that's what I do there. All right. So we've got column C. How much premium have we quoted? I mean, that's all right to know. right? Doesn't really help make any major decisions, but it's still good to know how much premium we're quoting zip codes. How many total quotes have we sold? How much total premium have we sold? It's good to know, right? But honestly, there's not a whole lot that you can do with just those numbers. You'd have to do more math and more work, right? So here we've got our closing ratios, total closing ratio for the zip code itself, home closing ratio for that zip code, and an auto closing ratio for that zip code. So it's pretty cool. I can decide, okay, so in this zip code, I'm doing an event. So when I'm doing an event, I can't necessarily say I'm only going to get home or I'm only going to get auto, right? So I'm going to look at my total closing ratio, my average total closing ratio for that zip code. But also take a look here. If I have a 0% closing ratio for home, I'm going to risk getting home leads if I'm doing an event. So maybe I don't want to do that. Okay, so this report is going to help you decide what type of marketing you can do. Door knocking, cold calling, events, they're a little bit more of a variety, right? So that's how that will help you out. We've also got your average savings for those zip codes for home and for auto. If it's in parentheses, that means that it's a negative. Okay, so that will kind of help as well. If you are in a state that is not does not take into consideration credit, then you are going to just use these ones. You're not going to do anything else off here to the right that I'll be talking about next. Okay, so I believe the states that are not that do not use credit is California and Washington, or Washington will start in like a week, I think. So I don't know about any other states, but if your state does not use credit, then I would not use the ones off to the right. I would focus on these. Okay. All right. So we've got your closing ratios based on credit class. Raise your hand if your state's premiums are based off of credit. Quite a few of you here. So this is going to tell you your preferred home closing ratio in this zip code. Standard home closing ratio in that zip code, non-standard, and unknown. Okay. I don't put a lot of home quotes in this account, so that's why it's a lot of zeros. Yours should not have a lot of zeros here, but you also shouldn't see a lot of numbers missing or in unknown. If your state is based off of credit, that means that your staff is not filling in that risk rating. Okay. We got 33% down here. It's pretty good, right? But where do they go? All right, so you can use that. This is going to help you out a lot because when you're buying internet leads, you can pick the credit type. Is it 100% accurate? No, it's not, but it still helps. Okay. And then you can do a couple of other different types of marketing too, based on this as well. Next thing we've got is our preferred, standard, non-standard, and unknown home average savings. Why would I need that? A lot of people have asked, what is the point of this? Why do I need to know what the average savings is for a zip code, let alone the credit classes within these zip codes? Well, the reason why is because it's important to know how competitive you are, right? Because if people are really focused on just saving money, like internet leads, then if my average savings is negative, then maybe I don't want to buy those types of leads there. But if it's my average savings is $500 a year for home, I mean, that's awesome. But notice that it's only there for preferred and not for the others. These ones are how I'll have dashes, meaning that they're zero, so they're blank. That right there is probably a typo. There's probably a typo somewhere in MVP. Okay. So that is what this is for. The cool thing about this is really just this report in general. If there's a claim, so there's an auto claim entered for a household, Do you think that that is going to reflect your accurate rates for that type of person or that zip code? That's not your true rates, right? Because there's things that are affecting underwriting that otherwise would not affect like other people. So why would I have someone that has a claim or two claims on their record and compare that to the people that don't? And what is my chance of closing them? So I'll tell you what, if I quoted someone with two claims, probably wasn't going to save them any money, right? But if they had nothing on their record, probably was. So that's the difference between why we use it and why we don't. Okay. All right. So we've got that here for home. We've also got our preferred, standard, non-standard, and unknown closing ratios for auto. A little bit more numbers here. Notice the amount of unknown that I have. We shouldn't have that if you're based off of credit in your state. Okay. Same thing over here is our average savings as well. These ones have a little bit more in here. So if it's parentheses, it means it's negative. So look here, non-standard, I'm negative 400 is my average savings. Up to preferred though is about 274. I do have some in unknown, which could kind of alter it a little bit. But this one right here, unknown, my average savings is $1,000. I need to know which one of these it is so I can target those people, right? So that is how you use this. Here is your quote ratios. If you want to use this, you're more than welcome to. It will tell you what percentage of your quotes were preferred, standard, non-standard, or unknown, okay? We've got the total number of quotes that you've sold for home auto, sold preferred, sold standard, non-standard, unknown for home. And then we've got the same thing for auto. So the number of quotes that were sold, total home quotes, total auto quotes. I mean, we've got everything here. A lot of this extra stuff is for any specific numbers. If you'd like to use them, you can. Most of our agents do focus more so on this front half of it. If you're based off of credit, you will be looking at the preferred, standard, non-standard ratios as well, and the average savings too. Okay. So this report is going to be cool. Look at it. We've got the 12-month and the 3-month one. I would look at the 3-month one and the 12-month one, see kind of what's different. You will notice that maybe your 12-month one, 76063 was number 1, but in the last 3 months, maybe it's number 4 or 5, right? That might change. Okay. All right. So there is the marketing or the geo report. So our geographical report based off of zip codes. Let me know if you have any questions or raise your hand if you understand this report and feel like you could go look at it on your own. Okay, raise your hand if you don't understand that report and you're just mind blown, don't really know what to focus on. Anybody? Nobody? Okay. All right, a couple more minutes left here. I've got some questions. Emery said, how can I see what I personally have sold on an Excel sheet? That would be for this data export that's here on the dashboard. Change the time range to whatever you want, and then you can export it if you would like to. Okay. So you can do that there. Let me show you something actually here. I'm gonna do the last 30 days. I'm gonna download this. While that's loading, I've got a question here from April. Would you ever delete a contact? Would I ever delete one? I would only delete households from MVP if they are duplicates, or yeah, that's really it. If it's a bad lead, I keep it in there because I want to make sure I don't buy it again in the future. Okay. All right. So here's this report. There's a lot of stuff on here. We've got like quoted and then sold for each line of business. Okay. So it's kind of a lot here. What I would do is, so I'll highlight the data only. So just click on one of the corners, Control Shift. In this case, I did left arrow and then I'll do the up arrow. So I highlight just the data only, not the whole page. and then I insert it to a pivot table. I make sure it goes to a new worksheet. We'll click OK. So here we can look at a couple different things. What happened here? Let's see. I don't know what happened with that. That's weird. Try it again. All right. Insert to a pivot table. There you go. That was weird. Okay, so I got username on the row. And then on the values, I can look at total premium sold. Okay, so I added it all together. I can look at how much home was sold, how much auto was sold, how much life was sold, how much specialty was sold, commercial, umbrella, all of that stuff I can do, and it just adds everything up for me. So that's nice. You can do whatever you want here. How many calls have they logged? How many quotes have they done? I mean, there's just like endless amount of stuff that you can do with these pivot tables. So just kind of drag this stuff around and see what, maybe what transition state they're on, or where are they coming from, right? Go that way too, okay? So there's lots of different options that you can do. What you're looking at, let's make that one look a little bit better here. Okay, so now I can see each staff member. Where do their quotes come from? Or yeah, where do they come from? And then how much premium was sold. So these ones did have quotes, but nothing was sold. I can look at like the new QLOB to figure out how many quotes they did and then how much premium was sold. Okay, so you look at that as well. Makes it pretty cool to look at some numbers, some quick numbers. Make sure they count or they match your folios to make sure that they're entering everything into MVP that they should be. Okay, cool. All right, so that is all for today's class. This month we talked about calling. I did that a lot in scripts. Next month, we will probably be covering workflows again. A lot of stuff has changed with those since we released it last. So we'll be talking about that. I will send out the plans for that probably on Tuesday, okay? But if you want to watch any of the previously recorded webinars, you are more than welcome to on our support page. Click your name on the top right and go to help and support. And then if you scroll down to the recorded webinar section, you're going to find all the old ones here. Okay, so we are actually working on creating a whole new support page. It will look a little bit different, but I'll send out a little notice that we've made the change and explain where you can find everything. It's definitely going to look really, really good. We have lots of really great videos that we're also working on creating as well. So this will be changing soon. All right, also don't forget about our Agency MVP logo on the bottom left. Our resource center is here. You can chat in with our team and get any help. You can call, you can email us, you can reach out on Facebook. We do have our Facebook groups, Agency MVP members only. Go ahead and join that group. Lots of great resources in there. You can post questions. We post different things about different events. Okay. All right. Well, thank you all so much for joining. Tracy, I'm so glad you enjoyed this. I think this would be a really good class for proteges to watch. There's so many different things to do here. And as an agency owner, it's important that you are running reports. If you're not comfortable with Excel, then that's fine. We create them for you, and then we'll make it very simple to do what you need to do for your agency to succeed. Thank you all so much for joining. Everyone have a great Memorial Day weekend. Stay safe and stay healthy, and we will talk soon. Bye-bye.